Alright everybody, so this video is going to be about making a line graph on paper. And again, when we look at this, in order to be proficient, you have to have a three-part title, titles or labels on your X and Y axis, appropriate scales, properly represented data, and possibly a legend or a key. So the next thing I want to do is actually take a look at some graph paper. And again, this is on paper, so you're going to be watching me kind of make it here. And we're doing a line graph, so we're numbers and numbers here. And again, if I'm looking at this, we're putting this on the X and this on the Y, and I'm giving a table. Okay, so thinking back to that proficiency checklist, the very first thing I'm going to do is put the three-part title on my graph. So the three-part title goes on the top, and it's going to need to include the independent variable, the dependent variable, and a little bit extra. And the little bit extra is like, what is the type of plant that we're looking at for the rate of photosynthesis. So I'm going to quick write this up there. All right, so we've got our three-part title, effective light intensity, which is our independent, the rate of photosynthesis is the dependent, and a little bit extra talks about what the type of plant is. So the next two things that I would do in order is put my labels with their units on the X and Y axis. So again, X, Y, so X picks horizontal independent X axis. So I'm going to go down here and I'm putting light intensity. Now I got to leave some room for my numbers, right? So I'm going to go a little bit lower. I'm going to go light intensity. And in parentheses, I'm going to put the units. And even if you don't fully understand the units, moles of photons per meter squared per second. Yeah, I guess that's what light is measured in. And that's on our X because that's over here. And now I'm going to do the Y. So I'm going to just spin this. And I'm putting the Y. And again, I need to put numbers here for my scale. So I'm going to write it slightly above. Moles of carbon dioxide consumed per meter squared per second. Okay, so I have now all of these labels on there, and I have 3 of the proficiency requirements done already. So the next thing we need to do is to figure out what scales I'm going to have before I put the data in. So let's take a look at this column. Now these are spread between 0 and 1,000. They're somewhat evenly spread as well. So what I need to make sure, I'm not going to break anything here. And I need to figure out how am I going to spread across this whole data on this scale. So a big thing to be wary of is make sure you're putting a number line that's evenly spaced and not simply these numbers. It's not going to be a bar graph, so I'm not going to put these on the x-axis. I would need a number line. So one way to do that, you can like just use number sense and be like, I wonder if skipping by 200s would be a good idea, or by 50, and make that, try and like mentally just try and figure out. But if you're looking for a more systematic way to do that, I'm going to show you now. So the first thing you need to do is count up how many boxes you have. And I counted this earlier so I can save a little bit of time, but I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to count up, there's 30 boxes along the bottom. So I've got 30 boxes. And with those 30 boxes, we need to spread out 1,000. So bring my calculator over here. I'm going to take 1,000 divided by 30. Now, I'm not going to put 33.33333 on every single box, okay? I'm going to skip some stuff. But I'm going to round this up to like either 5 or 10. So I'm going to go with 35. Okay, so if I put 0 on the corner, so this would be 0. And I want to go every box be 35, and that would get me to 1,000. Now, again, I'm not going to write every number on every line. I'm going to skip some. So if every line is 35, I would add 35, and that would be 70. So I'm going to skip every other. So this first line would be 35. The second would be 70. And now watch this. If I hit equals, it just automatically adds another 35. So the next line would be 105. The next line after that would be 140, maybe 175, then it would be 210, 245, 280, 315, 350, and I keep going until I get past 1,000. Okay, so now you see here, 1,000 is going to be slightly past 980, right? And that last line was just over 1,000, 1,015. So now my data here for my x-axis is going to be spread all along here. I need to put a scale for my other axis as well. And with this one, I range from 0 to 13.5. And again with this, or 13.3, 13 and 3/10. So with this, I'm actually going to round this up and then divide by how many boxes there are. So then I counted up these before, and it's 1, 2, 3, up to 22. So I would go, what is the numbers I need to spread, which would be 13.5, I'm rounding up, and dividing by 22 would give me 0.6136. Okay, so with this, every box, what that means is that every box should be around 0.6. Now, again, that's kind of weird, especially when I'm looking for where to put data points. So I'm actually going to round this up, not to the full to 1, because that would be like doubling what I should have, and it would only take me up half of the graph here. Like 13 would only get halfway. So I'm going to go with 0.75. Again, it's kind of like 3/4, so that's not bad. So 0.75 plus 0.75 is 1.5. So if every box here is, we're putting 0 on the bottom. If every box is 0.75, again, I'm going to skip boxes. This would be 1.5. And then the next one would be 2.25. The next one after that would be 3. So I skip 2 lines and I'd put 3. And then I skip 2 lines and I'd put 4.5. And then the next one would be 5.25, but then the next one is 6 because I'm going every other line here. and I keep going until I get past 13.3. And again, some of you guys with good number sense, I know you can do this stuff in your head and you don't need to use a calculator as much, but this is the foolproof way to do it. Okay, so now I'm past 13. So now what I would do is I've got, this is one proficiency requirement. These are two more proficiency requirements. This is another proficiency requirement. So now I need to plot my data for the fifth proficiency requirement. It needs to be represented properly. So the very first thing I need to plot here is 0, 0. So I put a dot at 0, 0. Now I'm going to go over to 75 and up to 4.1. So I'm going a little bit past 70, and I'm going to go up to about 4.1. And this is not exact science right now, and the more even these numbers are to our whole numbers, the easier it is to figure out where it needs to be in the spaces here. So the next one I'm going 175 and up to 7.3. So again, I went up 35 here for all of these. So if I'm going up 35 and 35 made me to 70. If I go up 35 from here, it's actually 175, which is what I'm looking for. And then I would go, so again, it's over to your X and up to your Y. I'd go up to where 7.3 is, so I follow this 175 line and I stop at under 7.5 because it's 7.3. And I put a dot there. And then I keep going. 350, 12.2. 650, 13.1. 1,000, 13.3. Okay, so now I've plotted all my points based off of the X and Y here. And now we should do our best to align these points correctly. So if you don't have a ruler, all I'm doing is taking the paper, folding it and creasing it, and now I have a straight edge. So I can go from this point to that point and connect the dots. Connect the dots and keep going. And there we go. We'll go back and check our proficiency requirements, but the last one, if you guys can recall, like a legend or a key. Since I just have one line and this is what the plant is, I don't need a key because I wouldn't put a key here for like this line represents this because it's already in the title. Okay, so here is our completed graph. Let's check to make sure it's proficient. So I'm going to do a little jumping back and forth here. So again, 3-part title, all set. X-axis label, all set. Y-axis label, all set. Appropriate scales and number lines, all set. Properly represented data, all set. And then possibly a key or a legend. And we don't need that, so this is a proficient graph. So again, I hope that was helpful, and that is how you make a proficient line graph for our assessment.